All right. So in this chapter, we're back to Hideki speaking, and he's talking about kind of how things have already changed and what he's seen and learned so far in his life and in the war. So basically, he starts off first talking about photography and the lessons he's learned from that, how he frames things with his hands. So what he's saying is when he sees a moment in time or something, he basically makes a rectangle with his fingers. Um, and and he peers through it as if it was a photographer's lens. And the photographer says this really great thing about what does this picture tell? What story does it tell you? And then he says you're supposed to look at not just what's happening in the photograph, but what happened before it was taken and what happened afterward. How you frame a photo says everything about the story you're trying to tell, which I found really powerful even the first time I read it, because it's how you tell something or what parts you choose to show says everything about the story. So think of it this way: if there's something that's happened at school, maybe there's a fight, and you choose to only share little bits of the story, maybe what happened after the fight, but not what led up to it. That frames your story, right? Maybe it makes you look innocent in a fight that you maybe egged on in the beginning, but it frames your story, it shapes what's happening. But it says everything about the story you're trying to tell, which I also like that because it shows your character, right? If you're willing to distort a story to make it just work for you, that might say something about your character. So he's learning how to look at the big picture and see what happened before something and after something and see the grand scheme of things. Then we get in the scene where Yoshio, the bully, wants to do the Gauntlet of Fists, which is some sort of like hazing ritual that they have at this school. And the way they describe it is all the kids are going to line up into two rows and they're just going to punch at whatever a younger kid runs through. And it doesn't sound like it's easy, like playful punches. Like it talks about people bruised and bleeding and broken bones. Like this is intense what they're doing here. And so they're saying, hey, you never got that turn. It's supposed to happen before you graduate. And Hideki's like, no, 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 I've already graduated. You don't get to do that anymore. We're not students. And Yoshio says, nope, doesn't matter. We're still doing this. We're still bigger. We're still older. Basically, we're still the bullies. We can do what we want. And Yoshio's plan, or Hideki's plan, is to distract them, right? And so he's trying to figure out what to do. First, somebody else is kamikazes, and they're watching these Japanese planes come in, and they talk about how kamikaze means divine wind. And at one time, when Kublai Khan was the Chinese emperor, he was trying to attack Japan, and this typhoon, this great storm, rose up and help save the Japanese people, the Japanese army. And so they believe in this divine wind that will always save them. So now they have created, as he says, organized their own divine wind for the Japanese army. And that is that these pilots will be loaded down with all this ammunition, bombs, and they have one job, and that is to crash into something and die for the cause. So all these men that are kamikaze pilots get in the plane and take off knowing that they will not come back alive. It's not the same as with soldiers now that know that there's a chance, but they're going to fight for everything. This is, you are 100% going to die on this mission. That is your mission. Your mission is to die, to crash, and to kill as many people as you can. Um, and so that reminds him about his ancestor, Shigetomo, and it says, when the Japanese samurai had invaded their island, he surrendered. Remember, we discussed this with the last section that Hideki was speaking, that it was not honorable to surrender without a fight, that you should die, and that's why they're given two grenades. And his ancestor chose to surrender, and the family got to live, but the Japanese still killed Shigetomo. Um, just for being there, I guess, for being a soldier. They were ruthless. So they killed him no matter what, but let his family live. And so now he says basically in Japanese culture, it's said that you live under the same roof with the spirits of your ancestors. So all the ghosts of your family past still live in your house, and they're like watching over you, they're with you. And he said, so that shame that my great, however many great grandfather had, still lives in this house, and it still represents this family. So he's really upset. Um, and again, he's hoping to distract the boys before they get back to this gauntlet of fists. And so he comes up with this plan of holding up his grenade and saying, hey, those Americans are about to land on the beach, and I am sure the army is going to fight back, but there's going to be some that get through, and we should be there to fight, so let's go. And so it says he ran off into the forest because he was so desperate to get out of the gauntlet of fists, he'd rather face an American gun.